Hello, everyone. My name is Kasabata, and welcome to the Voices Rooted podcast. In studio now, I'm joined by this lovely lady that I'm going to let introduce herself. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Lucy Claridge. I am a human rights lawyer. I've worked particularly to advocate and litigate for the rights of Indigenous peoples, particularly in Africa. But I am currently Executive Director of the International Lawyers Project. We're an NGO based in the UK, but working worldwide, so working globally on matters of economic and environmental justice. And we provide pro bono legal support to communities, individuals, government bodies all around the world.
All right. Interesting stuff you're doing. Are you able to tell us a bit more about the work that you have done within the African region or continent?
Yes, so one of the cases I've worked on for a long time concerns the Ogiek, who took their human rights violations and their a case to the African Court of Human and People's Rights, seeking protection of their lands and seeking recourse and redress for the fact that they've been evicted from their ancestral lands and denied their rights and discriminated for many years. They were successful. In 2017, the African Court delivered a merits judgment in their favour, and this was followed up by another judgment specifying what remedies the Kenyan government should provide to remedy the violations of their rights. The case was against the Kenyan state, so the Ogiek are a community, an indigenous hunter-gatherer community living in the Mau Forest in Kenya.
All right. Do you see any other patterns of the same type right now within the African context? I know there's currently a pipeline that's being drilled for the purposes of development, but it's displacing a lot of people, 350,000 and still counting in terms of the things that they used to do with the land and what they need for conservation, etc. Do you see patterns like that forming within the African context? And what do you think we could do to remedy that?
Yes, there are patterns. So I'm not working directly, but I am aware of the pipeline. One of the problems is that there is a big conflict between extractive industries and also even the move to kind of more climate-friendly solutions, such as renewable energy and also carbon credits. So that is still creating a big conflict between the land on which those projects, those developments are being built, or carbon credits are being traded, and Indigenous people's rights. Essentially, what it boils down to is the need to ensure that the right to free, prior and informed consent is sought from Indigenous peoples before such development happens on their land, and that they're fully participating and fully consulted and give permission or not for those developments to happen, and that they're not evicted.
That's right. You mentioned carbon credits. Do you believe that carbon credits are a good pathway to energy efficiency, to development for African communities?
I think the concept of carbon credits was probably a good one when it first started out. However, the way that it's been implemented has led to a huge amount of conflict. And there are numerous problems with it, which I won't share now. The one that I'm most aware of, and the one that we deal with most often, and the kind of requests for assistance that we receive most often, is where Indigenous communities are being removed from their land, because the carbon credits relate to resources on their land, so forests or grasslands, and they're either removed or they're not benefiting, etc. It's kind of become almost like another extractive, and unfortunately we don't seem to have learned from the lessons from the past from those industries.
Okay, so we see that there's a wave of climate disinformation that's currently taking over the climate space when we speak about climate action. I think mostly from big polluters or from those who profit from the disinformation. What do you think we can do, especially as Indigenous communities, to tackle that or to counter those particular narratives, especially because they happen online when most Indigenous communities are actually not online?
I think greater awareness around Indigenous people's rights, and also greater awareness around the role that Indigenous peoples can and should be playing in environmental protection. They have huge amounts of traditional knowledge. They know how to preserve the ecosystems on their land. They want to preserve and remain on their land. They know how to protect the biodiversity. And in fact, the Ogiek African court case actually recognised that communities should not be evicted from their lands in the name of conservation, in the name of preservation. So essentially the Kenyan government justified the eviction of the Ogiek from their lands in the Mount Forest in order to maintain and preserve the ecosystem, the water catchment area of the Mount Forest. And the African court, in its merits judgment, held that communities, Indigenous peoples, have a huge role to play in preserving and protecting those ecosystems.
Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any last words for the viewers, the young African people who are watching?
If you don't know already about Indigenous people's rights, go and read up. There's so much information available. Have a look on the UN website, have a look on the African Commission and AU websites and other NGOs, and go and read up, because I think they have a huge role to play, and they're also the people who are most affected by climate change. So there is a need to change the discourse around this.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lucy. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.